Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanTrucks.com. Today we're taking a closer look at and installing the Barricade HD off-road front bumper with the LED fog lights, available for the 2019 and newer Silverado 1500. You should be checking this out if you're looking for an off-road ready front bumper that keeps the cost down but adds some of the additional auxiliary lighting that you might want to light up the on and off-road track. This one here is a pretty modern take on an off-road bumper. It's very angular, it's got great approach angles and pretty good ground clearance compared to some of the other ones in the category without getting too far into the Baja styling. This angular appearance, being a lot more modern, has that aggressive look to the front end, on top of the fact that it's a lot stealthier thanks to the black powder coating. Now this is going to be really durable compared to the factory bumper, and we'll take a closer look at them side by side later on, but know that this one here is made from a heavy-duty cold-formed 5/32" steel plating with a two-stage epoxy pre-coating and a black powder-coated texture finish on top. Now this textured black here is a little bit smoother than some of the other textured blacks in the category. Some of them do tend to feel like sandpaper. This one here is just a slight texture, very fine stipple texture, and it's got a very nice satin sheen to it. So it's not fully matte black, not really glossy, sort of that in-between area. As you can see, this has a really nice cutout on both sides that almost looks similar to the factory bumper. You've got two fins there on the side, and it fits the LED fog lights or cube lights included in the kit. Now those use 4 individual LEDs a piece, one on both sides of course, and that's going to help light things up like I mentioned earlier. Now the center section there has a larger cutout which does help with airflow, but it also helps if you're looking to add additional LED lighting in the future. Now if you wanted to pick up like an LED light bar, you can fit that in the middle, whether it be a 20-inch or something a little bit larger. It fits right into that mount there, and it even has mounts already welded to the back end, so all you'd have to do is bolt it up, but there are additional brackets to help you out included in the kit depending on the aftermarket styling you get. Now it doesn't come with the light bar, but it does come with grill inserts for the guys not looking to pick up the light bar, or at least not yet, so you don't have just an open hole. That mesh is also made of a stainless steel, and it's also powder coated in black to match everything else and just completes the look. At the top end, you have a couple of pre-drilled holes with grommets right out of the box to help plug the holes, but the holes are there if you wanted to add, say, an overrider hoop from Barricade, so it is a little bit more modular. You can start to add things on in the future, or you can plug it up just as it is out of the box. Another thing to mention is if your front end comes with factory sensors, they will not transfer over to this Barricade option in particular. This one does not have pre-drilled holes. You could drill the holes out yourself and make the modifications, but just know out of the box it's not set up for that, so you will lose that functionality unless you do the modification yourself. There are other Barricade options in the category, of which you can find some that have pre-drilled holes if you are really interested in maintaining that functionality. There is another Barricade HD front bumper that isn't as aggressive of the approach angles and ground clearance, but more of an entry-level option that does come pre-drilled depending on your personal preference. I know I mentioned the ground clearance and approach angles earlier, but know that the ground clearance and approach angles will help your tires contact the off-road or on-road obstacle before your bumper did, but if it did, of course it could take the beating. Now the price tag for this guy is going to come in right around $850. Install, I'm giving 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. Anybody can tackle this with about 2, maybe 3 hours from start to finish. The lights are plug and play. All you'd have to do is run them to a power source such as your battery, but there are a ton of different methods to get that job done. I'm just going to be showing you one. And then of course the switch for those you can run through the firewall in your engine bay to your driver's side dashboard, and you'll be able to use that within arm's reach while you're driving. One quick mention before we jump into things is because you have better approach angles here, your factory wheel well liners will be visible from the front end of the truck. If it's not something you really like to look at, I recommend trimming them with a box cutter or something similar just to match the bottom profile of the bumper there to make it less visible. I'll show you guys what that looks like just at the end of the install. With that said, let's get started. Tools used in the install include an impact gun, extension, a ratchet, 10, 13, 15, and 18 millimeter deep sockets. Swivel socket is recommended, T15 Torx bit, a couple of panel removal tools, and a 14 millimeter wrench. First step for the uninstall, we have to pop our hood. We're gonna get off our top radiator shroud. Now grab a panel removal tool. We're gonna pop off these push pin clips. There's a couple straight across the front, and then we'll wrap it right back at the top end there. All you have to do is pry up on the middle section, go up underneath, and pull it out in one piece. Repeat that for all of them here. Okay, now we're going in the back. All right, from there you can lift this guy off. At the top of the grill, there are 4 10 millimeter bolts holding it on. Grab your 10 socket. I'm gonna use an impact gun and get these off. Next up, we can start popping our grill off. You want to grab a panel removal tool. I'm going to use a plastic one instead of the metal one I was using before, just so I don't scratch any of our paint or our headlight glass. I'm going to go into this corner here. You'll start to hear a pop here as well. Just like that. Repeat that on the other side. We'll pop up the top, just like that. All right, so you want to lift up on the tabs at the top end, make sure that's disconnected. All right, pop your grill off and set it aside. Next up, we're in the wheel well here. You want to grab a T15 Torx bit. We're going to remove 5 of these screws. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 is deeper in, and 5's up a little higher. All right, repeat that for the other side once you get all 5 of these guys out. Next up, we have the vehicle up in the air just to make it a little easier to see. We're basically taking off this bumper bracket. Now, I folded back the wheel well liner that we just unbolted to make it easier to see, because that's also how you can get to it from the outside of the vehicle if you're not crawling underneath. Grab a 15 socket. We're gonna get those 2 bolts off of this bumper bracket and 1 on the side. All right, and then this one down here. All right, repeat that on the other side. All right, so next up, while we have this up in the air, we're gonna get this 1 10mm bolt off. It's just to the inside of the bracket we just took off there and a little bit lower. Grab a 10 socket and get it off, and then repeat that on the other side. All right, so next up, we're in front of the vehicle. Where the grill used to be, there's this big rubber panel. If you go to these 2 bolts on each side, so right now you're looking at the passenger side, and you flip this guy open, or down at least, you can expose an 18mm bolt staring straight up at you. Grab a longer extension, an 18 deep socket, and an impact gun, go straight down onto the bolt, and remove it on both sides. You may need to stick your hand down there just to grab the bolt once it's loose. Repeat that on the other side. All right, once you repeat that on the other side, we're basically doing the same thing, flipping up this rubber flap to expose that 18mm bolt. Once you get that off on both sides, the bumper will be free, so make sure you have a hand on it to support it or a helping hand with a friend. Okay, again, repeat on the other side, hold onto your bumper, and we can pull it off. All right, what I like to do is just put my hand right in that spot where that last bolt came out, pull the bumper straight back and off. With the bumper out of the way, let's take the frame plates off at the end of the frame there, grab a 15mm socket and get these 3 guys out. So we got our factory bumper off of our 19 Silverado, and it's on the ground here next to our Barricade HD off-road front bumper with the fog lights. I want to take you through some quick similarities and differences between the two, and the first thing I want to start off with is the overall construction. Your factory bumper is a lot more susceptible to damage both on and off-road. It's not really optimized for the off-road experience, but the Barricade option definitely is. It's made of that heavy-duty 5/32 inch steel plating, and that design there gives you the best ground clearance and the best approach angles compared to your factory bumper there. Now that ground clearance is going to be instrumental in letting you get over some of the smaller on and off-road obstacles that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to with this front bumper. Front bumper is just not made for that application. You can see that lip at the bottom there that hangs down a couple of extra inches that the new bumper just doesn't have. The approach angles are also a lot better, of course, letting your front tires contact the obstacle before your actual bumper would, but if it did, it would be able to take that beating. Your factory bumper does not angle upward as much as you'd like it to, so it's more susceptible to that damage. Now when it comes to the overall design there, the new bumper is a lot more angular. You can see the factory bumper follows the regular body lines of the 19 and newer Silverado. It's very bubbled out and it's got that chrome finish. Now I know some vehicles on the road, some Silverados, do have a paint matched factory front bumper, but even still not optimized for the aggressive off-road look. The new bumper there with that black powder coating on top, it's going to help with that stealthy look and add to the aggressive appearance. It also has those fog light cutouts. Now, at first glance, the fog light cutouts do look pretty similar to the cutouts here on our factory bumper. Now, our truck didn't come with fog lights, so those are blocked off, but it did come with the openings there for the tow hooks. Your new bumper, of course, relocates things just a bit because it is a little bit of a different shape, but it does allow you to have the cube lights included in the kit. So while you do lose factory fog lights if your truck came with them, you gain the LED 3-inch cube lights that are included in the kit. Now those are gonna be an extremely bright white LED light. Each of the cubes have 4 individual LEDs, as a matter of fact, which is gonna help light up the road a whole lot better than the factory fog lights. The middle section of the new bumper, which obviously is not existent on the factory one, is allowing for a pretty large light bar. Now, you can pick up a light bar in the aftermarket if you're looking to pick one up separately, not included in the kit, but what you can get in the kit here is a mesh screen. So if you're not looking to pick up or spend the money on a light bar, you can add that mesh screen, which we will do once the bumper is in place. Finally, if your truck came with factory front sensors, you will be losing them with the new bumper unless you make permanent modifications yourself. Just something worth noting, there are a ton of off-road options in the category that do retain that functionality. If it doesn't mean a ton to you, then this bumper is going to fit up perfectly and you won't have to worry about making those modifications yourself. Something worth noting. Now, our truck didn't come with those parking sensors, so we're not going to worry about that. We can skip right over that section. Finally, the last function. Top of the bumper there, you can see a bunch of rubber grommets plugging up some holes. That's perfect for adding an overrider hoop from Barricade if you're looking to add on to it in the future, or you can even modify those holes to work with an aftermarket light bar or some extra cube lights if you're looking to mount them at the top of the bumper. Not something the factory bumper offers or even gives you the opportunity to add in the aftermarket. It would get a little bit messy. An off-road bumper like this is going to make it work a little bit easier. With that said, let's jump over to the install. All right, so next up we can start putting our bumper in place. I'm sitting on a stool and I have some jack stands to help me out. I also taped off the paint matched fender trim by the headlights just to make sure we're not scratching it. You're just going to gently guide this guy on, making sure that you're not damaging the vehicle in any way. You can go straight through the light bar section to bolt it down. I'm just gonna put one in on each side just to hold it in place. All right, once you have one bolt in on each side, again, you can go straight through the front. You have easy access to the bolt holes. That'll hold the bumper in, line it up where you want, and we can put the rest of the bolts through. All right, so once you have the bumper in position, grab the rest of the bolts and put them through. From there, align the bumper where you want it on both sides and tighten down the bolts with your 15 socket. All right, I'm gonna use a 15 deep socket and a swivel socket to tighten them down right through the grill opening. All right, for the last one, I'll switch over to a ratchet. Okay, repeat on the other side. All right, next up, we're gonna install our grills on the front end. Now, there are 3. There's 2 of these smaller squares that'll sit on the corner just like that, a longer one in the middle, and another one like this on the other side. Now, it's tough to see these holes. You can see the holes right here, but once we put the grill in, it's gonna be nearly impossible to see. You're gonna crawl underneath of the truck, and you're gonna be able to bolt it down from the inside. Again, difficult to see on camera, but guys, all you have to know is that's the hole there. You're gonna grab a hex screw or hex bolt included in the kit along with one of the washers, and I'm gonna use a 5/32 socket here, and you're gonna tighten these down. There's one at the bottom and one at the top. Do that for each of these. All right, so we have this in place. I'll crawl underneath. You basically just want to repeat that for the rest of them. All right, so once you have those guys tightened down, we can move on to the fog lights. All right, so next up we can install our fog light. Now, of course, if you're not doing the fog light, the mesh screen can go here to these 2 side brackets. Fog light's gonna go to the top bracket. Make sure the light goes through the actual hole itself. Follow up with the bolt through the bracket slot. Put the nut on the top. All right, from there you can push it forward or backward depending on how far out or in you'd like it, and then you can tighten it down. All right, once you have it in the position you like, grab your 13 socket and tighten it down. Repeat that on the other side. Now while we're here, I just want to take a quick mention of our wheel well liner. Now because your bumper comes down a little bit lower, you may want to trim the wheel well liner to be even with the bottom portion of the bumper so it's not hanging down like you see here. Once you have that trimmed, if you choose to do so, there is a wheel well liner bracket in the back there that you may want to remove as well, which can also be visible depending on your angle from the front end. I'm going to be removing that as well to give you guys just a good idea of what it would look like if you did do the trimming. Now, I'm not going to actually trim our wheel well liner. I'm just going to be tucking it backward just to give you guys, again, that visual representation. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll be able to move on to reinstalling our grill. All right, it's tough to see, but on the other side of that panel, if you are taking it off, there's 4 10mm bolts, so get those guys off. Repeat that on the other side if you'd like. Next up, you can carefully set your grill back in place, making sure not to scratch the headlight area. So you just want to make sure you're feeding it downward as it's supposed to be and snap it in. All right, from there we can put our 4 10mm back up at the top. Next up, we're going to drop on our radiator shroud. Make sure that guy is lined up completely. And now you can drop your push pin clips back in place. Next up, I'm going to run the wiring to our lights. I'm going to start at the battery here. Now there's 100 different ways that you can do this. I'm going to run it to the battery just to show you one example. If you're using your truck every single day, this is a good route. If not, you might want to run it to a 12-volt ignition source. There's, again, a ton of different ways to do it. This is just one of many. Starting at the battery, I'm going to pop off this lid here. Just set that guy aside for a moment. We're going to take the power and ground cables with the rings on it. We're going to attach them to the power and ground terminals on our battery. So I'm going to use my 10 socket to loosen up this nut here, starting on the negative. All right, once you have that on there, put the nut back on and tighten that down. For the positive terminal, I'm going to go to this top stud, which is actually a 13mm, but it makes life a little easier. All right, there we go. Now we can run the wiring straight down and lead them to our fog lights. Now for the wiring going to the fog light, there's 100 different ways, again, you can feed the wiring down. If you want to follow some of the other harness lines, you can do that, or you can go right into the fender, feed it straight down, and from the outside of the vehicle under the headlight, pull it through. Now you can feed that back to the fog light and plug it in, and then zip tie up the rest of the wiring if you have excess. Now this next part can be pretty tricky, definitely tricky to show on camera here. You're going to take the switch that allows you to control the fog lights on and off, and you can see the little red and green LED to show you on and off. You're going to take the switch, head over to the driver's side of the engine bay by the firewall. There's a grommet that leads to underneath of the driver's side dashboard inside the cabin. You're basically going to poke this guy straight through. In some cases, you can get it right past the grommet. In other cases, you may need to cut just a small slit in order to get this guy to slide in. Then again, go into the cabin and pull it through. Tough to see, but it can be done. You're gonna go straight down here, find that grommet on the firewall. We'll feed it through and pull it through the driver's side. All right, so once you get it through that grommet, you basically go under the driver's side dash. You can pull that straight through so it's underneath like this. And then at that point, you can peel off the 3M backing and stick it wherever you see fit. I typically just go right next to the steering wheel so it's easy to get to, and there's a quick on-off. All right, and then once that's installed, of course, button, green LED means the lights are on, red means off. All right, once you have that wiring taken care of and you feed it right down the back of the fog light, you're just gonna take the fog light harness and plug it into the one that you just ran to the battery and to the driver's side of the dash. And then from there, you can tuck that wiring up. And if you want, you can zip tie it however you see fit. Just make sure it's not dangling down. That's going to wrap up my review and install for the Barricade HD off-road front bumper with the LED fog lights, available for the 2019 and newer Silverado 1500. Get yours right here at AmericanTrucks.com.